Welcome to the Late Night Race Review.
The Japanese Grand Prix is underway. Watch Piastri, race leader Piastri, past one Mercedes, past two Mercedes, third to the lead, and he's brought Charles Leclerc to second place. Both the Mercedes crawled off the line, Lando Norris to third. Game on in Japan. It's Piastri, Leclerc and Norris. It is a big crash for Ollie Behrman. It will change the race. Behrman off the road and into the barriers.
So that'll be a safety car, and that'll be a gift for Kimi Antonelli, who stayed out.
Unbelievable. Kimi Antonelli wins the Japanese Grand Prix and leads the championship.
Get in there, Kimi. Good effort, man. Good
Woo-hoo!
effort.
Yes, man. Woo! Let's go, man. Oh.
Make sure to stick around as we wrap up the episode with our predictions game and take a look at our F1 Fantasy League. And don't forget to support the podcast by clicking those like, follow and subscribe buttons. Welcome on into the Late Night Race Review. My name is Aidan Scott, and joining me this evening, as always, is Isidro Gonçalves and Damien Scott. How are you both keeping this evening, chaps?
Doing good.
Yep. Well.
Good. Definitely an exciting weekend, this one. But no, that's good to hear. So, folks, we made it to round 3 of the 2026 season for the Japanese Grand Prix. A track that's filled with history, iconic corners like Spoon Curve and 130R, a track that has crowned champions, and a track that has now produced the youngest ever championship leader for the boy from Bologna, Mr. Kimi Antonelli. Chaps, what a weekend. To be honest, look, when it comes to Japan, I love Japan. Probably one of my most favourite tracks of all time. And a weekend that tends to get most of the teams donning some awesome liveries. I mean, last year's Red Bull livery was probably the best, if not the best, livery of all time. That car looked absolutely beautiful. And this year, we've seen some teams bringing out some awesome liveries, from Racing Bulls to Haas and Mercedes. Definitely some really, really cool liveries this weekend. But we're not here to discuss liveries, chaps. We're here to discuss what happened over the weekend. And I suppose we should probably kick it off with a little bit of qualifying. A qualifying session, and also a weekend that I think, if we take a look at it, wasn't the easiest weekends for one person in particular, Mr. George Russell. Even though we had another Mercedes front row lockout, in Q1 we had Russell complaining about a lot of oversteer that he was getting from the car. Possibly, I think it was either due to heat buildup or something in the tyres. But what was actually really telling about that first session is that Ferrari are definitely not messing around this year with their 2026 campaign. Both Ferraris are definitely looking super quick with both their qualifying performance and also as well with their overall race pace. Also as well in Q1, unfortunately, well, it was kind of inevitable. We lost both Cadillacs, both Aston Martins, Alex Albon and also Ollie Behrman, which was very surprising because Ollie Behrman over the last couple of races, he's definitely had some good pace on him. So it was a little bit sort of surprising to see him getting out of Q1. But then moving into Q2, we had Russell complaining about more oversteer. He was non-stop complaining on the radio. We also had Lindblad knocking Verstappen out of Q2. Now, that was a massive shocker. But at the same time, too, Verstappen was saying that the car was undrivable. He felt like he didn't even have any power steering at one stage. I think Max and that car, to be honest, that's a topic for a different day. And it's a topic that we could go on and on for ages. That combination of Max and that current Red Bull. But unfortunately in Q2 we had Verstappen, Ocon, Hülkenberg, Lawson, Colapinto and Sainz all out. And then moving into Q3 we had Leclerc had a little bit of a snap of oversteer coming out of Spoon Corner, which possibly could have lost him a front row position. He was coming out of Spoon Curve. He was really putting everything down to the last second there. He was trying everything he could to get that Ferrari on the top row, but unfortunately just a massive amount of oversteer, and that both Ferraris looked very unstable on the rear. And to be honest, they had that in China as well. But inevitably after Q3 we had Antonelli, Russell and Piastri qualifying P1, P2 and P3. The McLaren's definitely showing up this season for Japan, but again, another front row lockout for Mercedes. Chaps, what do you think of that qualifying session? Damien, I'll throw it over to you first. What were your overall thoughts about how that qualifying session went? Was there any sort of standout things that you could see from what we've seen over the weekend?
Well, honestly, I watched the first part of it, then I fell asleep soon after. So
very early in the morning.
I watched the highlights after that again just to see Q2 and Q1. But yeah, it was clear that the Mercedes still the top of the pile, very hard to beat. But yeah, it was great to see McLaren back in amongst the mix as well. They've obviously had their well documented issues in the past couple of races. Didn't even start the last one. So there's signs that they have a half decent car there if they can just get it out on track and get moving. So I think they both did quite well. And yeah, Pierre Gasly as well. Kind of, he's a little bit of the dark horse so far this season. He's in and around the top 10. I think, what did he qualify? 7th, I think it was in this, and he had a pretty good race as well. So yeah, he had quite a good qualifying session too. But yeah, there's no beating the two Mercedes at the moment, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think it stands out from a mile away that this Mercedes car is definitely the dominant force here for this season. Isidro, any standout moments for you for qualifying? Anything that you noticed from any of the drivers and any of the teams?
Verstappen was missing in the first top 10 cars. That was the first thing.
That's true. But he managed to come back a little bit with that car, even though as much of a shitbox that it is.
Come back-ish. And the McLaren, it seems they got this software in order to bring some competition to the Mercedes.
Somebody finally delivered the USB with the software update for the car.
Or probably McLaren has to pay the extra 5 years per month in the subscription from Mercedes just to get all the things.
They have to upgrade to Race Pro Plus with Toto Wolff to get any performance out of the car.
Mercedes Interface Premium subscription.
And then in 6 months' time, we're raising our prices by another $10.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at something like that. But yeah, McLaren seems to be back, and they are definitely showing up this weekend. And Ferrari is still looking good, but now that the McLarens are back, Ferrari really needs to step up their game.
Yeah, definitely. That's the thing, because obviously for the first couple of races there, we were all kind of thinking to ourselves, well, look, it's basically Mercedes versus Ferrari this season, and whatever anybody else can actually do with their car, see what kind of positions they can get. So yeah, you're totally right. Ferrari definitely need to be looking behind them when it comes to the likes of McLaren and stuff like that. But yeah, look, qualifying, it came, it went. It was very, very interesting to watch. Again, very, very early in the morning for the likes of ourselves over here in Europe. But thankfully, even though, yes, we do have a month's break until Miami, we're going to be getting back to normal times. It's going to be great not having to wake up at the crack of dawn to see qualifying in the race. Well, you don't have to wake up at the crack of dawn, but I do it because I'm committed. But anyway, folks, look, moving on to this Sunday event, which was the main Grand Prix. To be honest, I think a lot of people were sort of thinking to themselves, yeah, look, you know, when it comes to the likes of McLaren, they did show up in the likes of Australia. Well, not really Oscar Piastri, but then also China as well. A lot of people are thinking to themselves, oh no, we're going to have a repeat of what happened in the likes of China. But definitely McLaren, I think they were the ones that they definitely shocked a lot of people at the beginning of that race. But chaps, even before the beginning, when those lights went out, I just want to mention a quick little thing. Did any of you see the national anthem, the Japanese national anthem? Did you just watch that part? It was awesome. It was done like a whole rock version, big massive solos, all that kind of stuff. Damien, did you get to see that bit?
No, I just missed that. Yeah, it was just the formation lap was kicking off. I checked in. Yeah.
Oh, it was awesome. Isidro, did you see it?
Oh,
God. Yeah, well, look, after this, go onto YouTube and watch that. It was awesome. It was actually really, really cool.
Better than the Mexican thing.
No. You can't beat that F1 Mexican theme tune. That is literally the best thing in the world. my wife always says to me, she's just like, when is the Mexican Grand Prix coming up? And like, she always makes sure that she's there to actually watch it, just waiting for like the intro, and like when Crofty is talking about all the turns and the corners and all the things and stuff like that, all you can hear is that little theme tune in the background. She's like, I love this bit.
Yeah, they did a very good job in Mexico with that.
Yeah, no, they definitely did. But chaps, one of the things I think stood out the most was this was the first time this season. Now, I know it's only 3 races in, still very early days, so this might be a little bit over dramatic on my part, but it was the first race start where we had all 22 cars, no issues, everything went off without a hitch until obviously the inevitable happened. Well, not the inevitable, it wasn't inevitable, it was going to happen, but until what happened halfway through the race, which we'll talk about very, very shortly. But it was great to see all 22 cars getting off the line and actually putting in some good laps over the first sort of stint. But I think one of the things that stood out the most was that race start. Holy God, that was an amazing start by both McLarens and Ferraris. We had, I think it was Piastri literally shot up to P1. Lando was there in P3. Both Mercedes getting absolutely fooled again at that race start. Kimi dropping all the way down from P1 to P6, and then Russell down to P4. That was a very exciting start. Now, to be honest, when it comes to Japan, going into turn 1 and turn 2 and going through the S's and everything, that's always an exciting start. So regardless of what year it is or whatever it is, it's always an exciting start. But that was really, really good. Those McLarens really did come alive. And to be honest, it's probably the team that we should talk about first, because we haven't really been able to talk about them a lot this season because they've either been in the pit lane or they just haven't been in the race whatsoever. But yeah, McLaren finally showing up for the 2026 season. As I said there, great start by both McLarens, and they came alive for those first 5 to 6 laps. You know, we even seen Lando defending from Kimi, Piastri leading the race. That whole first stint performance was absolutely awesome by McLaren. Lando definitely had to put some work in to defend from Hamilton and Leclerc. He was having a lot of trouble trying to keep off Leclerc and Hamilton. He was definitely putting in all the moves, and it's a little bit disappointing to even say that was a challenge for him, because he is the world champion. He's the reigning world champion, and it is a little bit sort of sad to see that, like, him kind of stuck down there trying to take on both of these Ferraris that are just literally biting at his heels. But hopefully over time that car improves and he's able to get back up there and continue to fight at the very top. But then eventually we had Norris, who was the first to pit. He was going for a possible undercut on Leclerc, which definitely failed in a big way. He dropped back behind Charles. But then we had Piastri's battle with Russell. That was brilliant to watch, folks. That was absolutely class. But I think one of the things about it is that it kind of shows that McLaren are definitely getting somewhere with these regulations. I know we kind of joked about it a little bit here earlier on, McLaren getting their little software update and stuff like that from Toto Wolff, but like, it really goes to show, because like, I even seen during the week Zach Brown, I think it was either in a press conference or I think he was at the McLaren headquarters over in the UK. He addressed everybody and he said, we're showing up to Japan, this is what we're going to do, we're going to bring an awesome race car and we're going to show them what we're capable of. And they definitely did that. You know, like, obviously, yes, look, they didn't win the race, but there was a chance there, especially with Piastri. You know, he came across the radio even saying, hey, look, you know, if we keep on doing what we're doing, we can actually win this. But Piastri, he did pit, I think it was roughly lap 19. Russell then eventually got ahead of Piastri for roughly 2 to 3 laps. But then on lap 22, we had that massive crash with Ollie Behrman at Spoon Curve there. Now, that in itself, before I kind of go on talking about the rest of McLaren, this is a little sort of pivot that we're gonna talk about here. Guys, I want to hear your opinion. That crash with Ollie Behrman and Colapinto, do you think that was Colapinto's fault? Yes or no? Isidro, I'm throwing it to you first.
No.
Right. Okay. Damien, what do you think?
I would say 95% no, 5% there was a little move. But again, it was a long kind of curve, so it wasn't under braking. So yeah, I don't really think he was too much at fault, but he did move slightly, you know, but that's just racing. So yeah, no from me.
Yeah, well, to be honest, chaps, I am going on the complete opposite of this one, and I am 100% going to say that was a Colapinto move right there. And when I mean a Colapinto move, he knew exactly what he was doing. You could see him, he was in the middle of the track. Now, I know you're entitled to defend your position and all of that kind of stuff, but he wasn't even on a racing line. He was just putting his car in the middle of the track. He more than likely seen Berman coming behind him. He knew he was coming from behind anyway. He could see him in his mirrors, and more than likely his engineer was onto him saying Berman 0.5 or 0.6 seconds or whatever behind. He's aware that Berman's behind him. You could see there was a little juke to the left there to try and, you know, push him or try and even squeeze him out a little bit. I'm sorry, I'm on the fence. I'm not saying I'm on the fence here. I am completely on the side that was Colapinto. That was him. And to be honest, he should have received a penalty for that. That's my own view. People could completely disagree with me on that one, but I think looking at the severity of how that crash went, like, that was a massive amount of G-force that Berman took. He even got out of the car. He was limping. The amount of speed that he was bringing into that corner as well. It was just, I think it was a very, very, very risky move that Colapinto was able to pull off. I think he knew what he was doing, but he was able to pull it off without getting away with a penalty or trying to make it look like it was his fault. But honestly, I think he knew what he was doing there. You know, he was going for a defensive move. He was a little bit cheeky in his move. And inevitably, it completely, you know, went absolutely sideways. Literally, quite literally.
I don't think he was that far off the racing line. And like I've looked back at the clip 2 or 3 times now, and you can clearly see the double red flash at the back of the car on the lights. So that meant he had 0 power from the battery electric side of the engine. So he was slowing way down. And obviously Berman had, you know, more power, more pace. So it was percent. It was an issue to do with the differential in speed or pace as they call it.
Yeah.
I don't think there was much of a move. Like you say, it was, you know, he was kind of going towards the center. I don't think it was a defensive action as such. But I think this one is 100% down to just that differential in speed. So it's clearly an issue that we have to look at with these meetings that are coming up in the next week or two.
So if something is to blame, is the regulations and the battery, because that's what caused the difference of speed between Colapinto and Berman just flying through.
Yeah.
So Colapinto wasn't. I mean, even what's his name, the Haas. Komatsu, he's saying that Colapinto wasn't. He's not responsible for the incident. It's more the new electric battery that they just kick in whenever it want. So for Colapinto, it suddenly reduced the speed. Berman, it just hit the rocket, and that's why it went 50 Gs.
Now, don't get me wrong, Isidro, right? I'm not trying to say here that Colapinto was trying to kill him or anything like that. And believe me, I would definitely take any opportunity to try and, you know, throw shade at these 2026 regulations. I mean, it's the golden opportunity right now.
Yeah, it is. And you are not doing it.
But I am taking this opportunity to throw absolute massive shade at Colapinto. You guys know my opinions and know my feelings about this guy.
you don't know the Argentinian fans, do you?
Oh, I do. I've seen what they're capable of. We won't get into that anyway.
Watch your back. They're coming for you. I think in this case,
don't care.
In this case, like, you know, somebody like Colapinto who has this kind of, what would you say, reputation for some of these kind of things, when it happens and he's 100% at fault, yeah, like absolutely slate him. But in this case, I don't think you can 100% say it was his fault, you know. Yeah, pile on him if that's the case, but I don't think it was really in this one, you know.
Oh, I will pile on him, Damien. Don't you worry.
This is your Liam Lawson, you know. This is your Liam Lawson bias for this season. Is the Colapinto?
That is it. That is literally it. I was going to get to that a little bit later on. I was going to say to you guys, I was like, there is a new king in the kingdom of dicks. Someone has been dethroned and taken the crown. But yeah, he's my focus now for this season. I'm going to be watching him very, very closely. I'm going to be watching him like a hawk.
But in all seriousness, like this is the issue that all the racers were talking about prior to the season starting. So I think they've there's been a couple of issues like this maybe, but now we have a crash and somebody got hurt. Obviously not too badly hurt. He kind of was limping, but yeah, it's kind of a threshold or a moment where they have to seriously look at it. And as I said, I think they do have that meeting next week where all the power unit manufacturers, all the team principals, and FIA, F1 are all getting together. This kind of circuit breaker they were talking about. So they have their example now. But yeah, if safety is the number one issue, and they always say it is, then yeah, they kind of have to really look at this seriously. So I think we probably will see some sort of modification of the regulations once we get into Miami. What it is, or how they do it, I suppose is still open, but there's a couple of options on the table anyway.
Yeah, usually changes in Formula One are written in blood. I just hope that they change before that happens. I mean, the Behrman accident is definitely an eye opener, and this is open track. If it was Monaco, Baku, or Vegas, it was bye Ollie.
Yeah, no, 100%. That was when you put it into that sort of perspective as well. Like that is scary. If it was a street track like Monaco or Vegas, like that would be that would be a lot worse than what it was. But yeah, I can foresee Toto Wolff already getting the letters of those threatening letters ready for the FIA. Those little blackmail letters going out the door. Don't change a thing. I'm kidding. But anyway, chaps, look, we need to move on here because we do still need to talk about McLaren. But look, during all that kerfuffle, anyway, Antonelli took the brilliant opportunity to go into the pit lane and pop himself onto a nice fresh set of tyres. But unfortunately, one chap who missed out on that was George Russell. But anyway, when it came to the race restart, Piastri, he was in P2. He was behind Kimi, who obviously took the race lead. And then also as well, I'm nearly sure it was Russell or Hamilton who was behind him anyway. But unfortunately, Piastri's pace, even though, yes, it was really, really good throughout the first stint, even before the safety car or before he pitted, unfortunately, his pace just kind of fell off after 2 to 3 laps after the safety car restart. He just could not keep up with that Mercedes, which it was unfortunate because it would have been nice to see, that P1 and P2 battle. But again, it just kind of shows the power of that Mercedes car. But moving on from that anyway, we had Lando have a little bit of difficulty getting by Hamilton. He had a good few chances. It was a bit of a yo-yo effect there from time to time. But then he eventually did get by Hamilton because, again, Hamilton, he was having a bit of difficulty with power deployment. And then also as well, he had a bit of a lockup going into the final chicane. But he eventually did get by him by the end of the race, and it finished up with Piastri in P2 and Lando in P5. McLaren taking some really good amount of points out of Japan this weekend, 28 points in total, making pretty much McLaren third in the championship at the moment with 46 points. Damien, I'm going to throw it to you first here about McLaren. What did you think overall? Their performance, their strategy, what stood out to you the most?
Yeah, it was just really good to see them actually be competitive for the first time this season. I think Ferrari has been getting a little bit of a free ride and being the P2 team as such. Nobody's touching Mercedes, but Ferrari, I think, are looking good, but I think we need, as fans of the sport, we need, a third or a fourth team in there to actually, make the season a bit more competitive. So finally McLaren showed up. Maybe Red Bull can get their act together at some stage in the next month or two. Who knows on that one? But great to see McLaren back. They obviously had a good strategy from the start. So they did a really good start. Those, as you said, those first 5 or 6 laps, they shot right up after the bad start that the Mercedes had, and that seems to be an ongoing issue for them. I thought Piastri was actually brilliant this race. He seemed, pretty cool, calm and collected, as he generally always is. There was never really, any situations that he was, having a bit of frustration with. He just managed it from start to finish. And he might have deserved to win this one, but I think, Antonelli obviously was just too fast this time again. But who knows? We might have a Kimi Antonelli, Oscar Piastri World Championship battle on our hands, which would be a really interesting one to see. But yeah, so good to see McLaren back. We need them there, and yeah, a fantastic number of points they got from P2, P5. I think Lando was a little bit anonymous at times. He was just kind of a little bit adrift of some of the drivers for a while. What did he finish? About 8 seconds or so behind George in the end. So yeah, didn't hear too much from him, but yeah, Oscar seemed to be on it. But again, good points overall.
Yeah, definitely. And look, to be honest, I'm just delighted that we can talk about McLaren again, because that means I can bring back my Zach Brown impression, Oscar and Lando. We can get back to talking about McLaren. So yeah, hopefully, look, McLaren put in the performance again, because yes, we would love to talk about them more, because again, they have the reigning world champion on their team, and it would be an absolute disappointment if they fell off and went back to their losing ways, which it was like in 2022 and 2023. It was absolutely shocking altogether. But moving on from McLaren, we need to talk about the next team, Ferrari. Isidro, it looks like Ferrari still have a race car after 2 rounds. Remember what it was like last year, and yes, I know it was a different set of regulations, but it's kind of typical Ferrari. They have somewhat of a decent start to the season, but then they just completely drop off after 2 to 3 rounds, and that's it, and they just struggle and all that kind of stuff, and they moan and complain, and the clown show comes out. But this weekend, Ferrari, brilliant weekend from Ferrari. Another great start. We've seen this in Australia and China and everything. Those Ferraris are absolute rocket ships off of the start line. We had Charles up to P2, Lewis into P5, but I have to say, I think one of the most outstanding things about both of those Ferraris, Charles was definitely putting in some great work to battle with Kimi. Now, inevitably, Charles's pace did drop off, which was a little bit surprising, but at the same time, you know, this Ferrari car, it's no slouch. This car knows how to get around a track and knows how to put in some good lap times and some good performance. But then, as we were talking a little bit earlier there on the safety car restart, so roughly it was a lap 27 or something like that when the safety car restart happened. We had Hamilton absolutely getting a massive jump on George Russell and powering buying him down into turn 1, which was absolutely awesome to watch. And then obviously that put Hamilton up into P3. Then by lap 38, Russell seemed to be having a little bit of issues coming up there into Spoon Curve. He lost a lot of deployment from that battery, but then that inevitably led to Charles getting by him at Spoon Curve. And then after that, because we had Hamilton in P3 and Charles in P4, that brought that epic battle between the two drivers. We've seen them battling in Australia, we've seen them battling in China. Do you know what? We've said it here over the last couple of episodes. These guys know how to race each other and not actually crash. There was a little bit of touching, tiny little bit of touching, I think, at one stage, but they definitely know how to put on a show when it comes to their sort of inter-team battles. But then, unfortunately, and as I mentioned a little bit earlier, Hamilton's pace, it did drop off once Russell got by him again. He, again, was having deployment issues when he was battling with Lando Norris. He had that big lockup into the last chicane. It was a disappointment sort of ending for Hamilton, but at the same time, too, it did finish up with Charles in P3 and Hamilton in P6. Ferrari picking up another great set of points, 23 points in total, keeping them there in second position in the championship with 90 points. Isidro, what did you make of Ferrari? Are you happy to see Ferrari performing the way they're performing? And what stood out to you the most this weekend?
Before I start talking about Ferrari, when you said clown show, it just it reminds me what happened last week about the clown show of Ferrari. They all moved to the VerstappenRacing.com team. They don't know how to do math between 28 and 24 tires. No. When you said clown show Ferrari, they are all there now. That's why Ferrari nowadays is good.
I know, and you know what? I was watching that race as well. I was watching every single minute of it, and it was awesome to watch Verstappen in that Mercedes, and it was such a great race. It really was. It was really enjoyable to watch. But then to see that come out, I'd like to, do you know what, Isidro? I kind of thought that to myself. I was like, how the hell can you mess up the amount of tires that you're using? But then I thought to myself, oh yeah, Ferrari know how to do that.
Yeah, they're all there now.
They're all just sitting there. They're just sitting there going, we are checking. Must be the water.
But on this race, it's it's refreshing to see Ferrari back to where they were maybe 20 years ago. They have a decent car, they have a decent team, they have excellent drivers. They are definitely having fun this year. Especially Hamilton is completely different of what he was last year driving that tractor. But nowadays they are happy on track. They fight each other on a good way, and they put up a show every time they drive. So it's refreshing to see the drivers and the car doing so well. I just hope they keep it going. But I don't know. I see a little shadow coming. I don't know if it's McLaren or if Ferrari just they can just move away from the last years. But so far, it's nice to see Ferrari up there fighting, getting podiums in every single race. So far, I mean, comparing with last year, it's night and day. And in Japan, it didn't disappoint. Ferrari was there. McLaren is back, so I think that got Ferrari a bit behind. They were not expecting McLaren to be so good, to have Piastri in the middle and basically stealing a possible Ferrari 2-3, because Russell was in the worst Sunday ever this year. So happy to see Ferrari. If they cannot improve, at least don't go down.
Yeah, no, definitely. And like, to be honest though, Isidro, the thing that I'm kind of wondering to myself is, and it's something that I've been waiting to see, when are we going to get the rotisserie wing? When is it actually going to be deployed? I want to see the rotisserie wing. Or what do they call it? The Macarena wing or something they call it? But no, when do we get that? Isidro, that's going to be your job over the next month that we have on this break, is to reach out to Scuderia Ferrari, send a letter to Maranello and ask them, when are you bringing the rotisserie wing? We want to see this thing.
Yeah, and add a little automation that when the wing spins, it just plays Macarena, or the first chords of Macarena.
Oh, that would be awesome. That'd be really cool. I just want to see this wing in action. I really do. Like, I know we've seen it in testing and stuff, but I really want to see them actually use it during the middle of a race. But at the same time too, hopefully it doesn't kill the drivers and just sends the car flying into a massive spin. We don't want to see that whatsoever. But yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see that wing there. But yes, no, you're totally right. It is great to see Ferrari up there and just consistently with those race starts and performance. Like, look, it's inevitable that over a race stint, you are going to lose performance in some way, shape or form through tires and heat and all that kind of stuff. It can be very hard to control a car when temperatures rise and all that kind of, so there's loads of variables and stuff like that there, but it's good to see the consistency from Ferrari. So hopefully the most of us in the Tifosi can come out of the woodwork again this season and actually really get behind both Lewis and Charles. But yeah, brilliant from Ferrari, and look, it's great to see them still sitting there in second position in the championship. Moving on to our next and final team, because this is probably going to be a big enough discussion, Mercedes. It was another weekend, Damien, where it was lights out and away everybody else goes. Both Russell and Kimi getting absolutely fooled at the race start there. They just cannot get these race starts down to a T. Like, I know, yes, in China it was somewhat kind of a little bit better than Australia, but they just, for some reason, lose out on a massive amount of places, like valuable places. Like, I'm not saying they jump all the way down to the bottom of the grid or anything like that. It's just important positions. You know, when you're racing against the best of the best at the very top, even 1 to 2 positions, that feels like 10 spots basically, because you're having to put in 2 or 3 times the work to get to that top spot again. But as I said there, Kimi, he dropped down from P1 to P6, and then Russell dropped all the way down to P4. But the one thing I had to notice, And especially even when you look at it from China as well, Kimi had to put in some massive moves to regain track position to come from P6. And it took him roughly about, 19 laps to get back up to P2. That was a lot of time on the track, tires wearing down, even get to that safety car window. And I'm not going to say it was luck. Like, I think, to be honest, eventually he would have got even P2 and P1, regardless, even if there was a safety car.
Would you say he pulled a Verstappen?
He pulled a massive Verstappen, Isidro. He pulled a massive... He is the new Verstappen. He's mini Verstappen. But I think at the other side of this as well, it just shows the incredible power of this Mercedes car. But also as well, it shows that they do have very stiff competition, both in Ferrari and, as we've been talking here, with McLaren as well. But as we said at the beginning of the episode, Russell did not have the best of weekends, and this was not one of his best races. Jumping down to P4 in the race start, but then he did take the race lead on lap 18 or 19 after Piastri pitted. But then, unfortunately, we heard that massive complaint come across the radio after Ollie Behrman crashed. He was like, absolutely typical, or something like this. It was some, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what he said. I know we actually have it in the intro to this episode. But he was shouting across the radio, making sure he was knowing that he's not a happy bunny, because obviously Antonelli capitalised on that and took the P1 position. But then with Russell starting at P3 at the race start and losing out to Hamilton, that was very telling. And then again with that battle with Charles, I was thinking in battery terms. I was like, his battery wasn't charged up, but he lost a lot of power in his battery near sort of like kind of 3/4 of the way through, as we all know, going into Spoon Curve. He just basically waved Charles by and just let Charles and Hamilton fight each other. But yes, look, he did regain a bit of deployment. He came back. He was fighting up there. He was fighting with Charles and Hamilton. And he was able to regain those positions. But then eventually he was able to come back, and he was only able to claim P4. And when I say only able to claim P4, when you're in the best car on the grid, that's very telling that it was a very difficult weekend for George Russell. But I think the most important thing about this is just showcasing how incredible this young driver is, Kimi Antonelli. He is definitely a future world champion. If it's not this season, because yes, it's still early days, and as you kind of mentioned yourself, Damien, a little bit earlier on, we do have that month's break, so there could be, a lot of changes that could be going on behind the scenes. We could have a different sort of field of cars come the Miami sprint race and Miami and all this kind of stuff. Like Mercedes, they could be dead in the water, like McLaren or Ferrari or whatever. They could capitalize on this, and the tables could flip. But I think regardless of whatever happens now over the next couple of weeks, Kimi Antonelli, he is definitely a future world champion. But before I throw it over to yourself, Damien, it did end up with Antonelli in P1 and Russell in P4. Mercedes claiming another set of dominant points there, 37 points in total, keeping them there in P1 in the championship with 135 points. Very dominant performance yet again. Damien, tell me what you thought of Mercedes this weekend. Anything that stood out to you the most, and what did you think of their overall performance this weekend?
Poor old George, he can't catch a break, can he?
Screw George.
Yeah, Australia, he came out and dominated, and we're like, all right, here we go, George Russell, world champion, as everybody was talking about in preseason. And yeah, he showed us he's capable of that, but. Yeah, this last race, Kimi has just come out and completely dominated him. So it's, all bets are off. But yeah, I think Russell had some issues in qualifying. They'd made some changes. I think it was to his rear wing. And obviously that didn't work out too well for him in qualifying. And then they couldn't change it overnight because you need the same configuration in the race. So I think those issues that he was having carried through to the race. So with that in mind, P4 not too bad considering the issues he was having, but having, as you said, one of the best cars on the track, P4 is not where you want to be. You want to be finishing. So yeah, he got bad luck again, I think, on the whole safety car issue, because I think he had pitted literally the lap before the accident. And yeah, he got caught up then in the traffic of everybody getting backed up by the safety car, and Piastri just popped in for a nice cheeky pit stop and took away the P2 from George, which he'd actually fought quite well to try and get back. So yeah, I can understand the frustration, but yeah, you just kind of have to laugh at his radio calls. He always seems a little bit, I don't know, entitled or something, to think that everything should always go his way. But yeah, you can definitely understand the frustration that he was experiencing. But yeah, fair play to Kimi. Like, he obviously had that really bad start, and I think he was down to P6 or P5, whatever it was. And he had to get his way right through the pack again. Yeah, as Cedro said there, it's a bit of a Verstappen performance, and to see that in somebody that young is yeah, it's very telling that we have a future world champion on our hands, as we said in the past few podcasts as well. But yeah, back-to-back poles, back-to-back wins, dominating his obviously more experienced teammate, who's supposed to be world champion this year. Yeah, it's all in Kimi's hand, but I think Toto Wolff has been doing some good management of the situation, just to kind of calm things down with what he's saying in the press. Is like, he's a young driver, his time will come, so he's kind of trying to keep Kimi on his feet as well. But if he continues these kind of performances, then yeah, you're gonna have to start talking about world championships, right? So he's really just showing his talent and his ability, and yeah, this could be his year. But again, very early days, but two really important and good performances from him, which gives him the lead at the moment. So let's see what happens, eh?
Yeah, definitely. And like, as you were saying there, it's still early days. A lot can change in the next couple of weeks with these regulations, and everything could be turned on its head. But if it is a case where Antonelli is definitely being poised to be the 2026 world champion, that is major bad news for the three of us, because we all have George Russell as our world drivers champion for 2026 in the predictions game. So even though some of us may not be too fond of George, I think we played our cards way too soon. So yeah,
they've had Hamilton, so I think we're a little bit closer with Russell.
Yeah, we are a little bit closer. It's definitely going to be a Mercedes World Championship anyway, constructors. But when it comes to Russell, I don't know. But we'll see how the next couple of races go. Look, it's a long season. There's a lot of races left on the calendar, so a lot can happen between now and Abu Dhabi. But no, you're totally right. Like, look, it's great to see Kimi performing the way he is. Hopefully he can keep it up. Hopefully he at some stage he absolutely drops off and George Russell comes back and claims world champion, so we all get 5 points. It'll make it very tasty in the predictions game. Just kidding. But no, definitely a great talent there in Kimi Antonelli. And yeah, very, very, very upsetting weekend for George Russell, but who cares? It's George Russell. but anyway, folks, look, that was the Japanese Grand Prix. Our top 10 result from the Grand Prix: we had Kimi Antonelli in P1, Oscar Piastri in P2, Charles Leclerc in P3, Russell in P4, womp womp, Lando Norris in P5, Lewis Hamilton in P6, Pierre Gasly coming in there in P7, Max Verstappen in P8. We also had Liam Lawson in P9, and then wrapping up the top 10 was Esteban Ocon in P10 there. And then also as well, we had two DNFs. We had the Ollie Behrman crash on lap 22. That was Ollie Behrman out. And then also Lance Stroll had to retire the car on lap 31. I think it was to do with a water pressure issue in that Aston Martin. And we've talked about Aston Martin a lot, and we kind of know what they're like at this stage. So I think even Stroll, in one of the press conferences, he even said he was just like, he was enjoying his time out in the track, fighting against Fernando, having their own little Aston Martin championship. So yeah, hopefully we might see some sort of performance from Aston Martin at some stage this season. But look, that brings us on to our next segment of the episode, folks. Our driver of the day, our dick of the day, and our loser of the day. Damien, who was your driver of the day, dick of the day, and loser of the day?
I'm giving driver to Piastri. Instead, I thought he had a good race. If it wasn't for the safety car, I think he probably could have won the race. So yeah, going to give it to Piastri. Obviously, fantastic race from Antonelli again, but yeah, I think Piastri just got the nod for me anyway. Dick of the day, George Russell for his moan after the pit stop incident. I was just like, oh, George, come on, seriously. Even though I understood it, it was just typical him, right? Just the way he came across the radio. And my loser of the day, Ollie Berman. He's been going well the first couple of races, but he had a bad qualifying. Then he had obviously the big accident. So not a great weekend for him. So he's my loser of the day.
And then Isidro, who is your drive of the day, your dick of the day, and loser of the day?
So driver of the day will be Kimi Antonelli. He had a bad start in Japan, but he picked up the pace and he pulled the Verstappen and won the day and the race, and is now the leader, the youngest leader in the championship. My dick of the day will be the batteries. The crash between the Berman crash was due to the battery, same that Colapinto. If one was super fast, one was super slow. So the dick is the battery. No blame on Colapinto.
The reg, they're getting it in.
Just real quick, Isidro, I noticed that you've put down BMS. I've been trying to figure out here over the last couple of minutes.
Battery management system.
I was about to say, is that battery management system? I was like, is it bullshit something or BMS? It's like, what is BMS?
Get with the tech lingo, will you? Come on.
Jesus.
RTFM.
RTFM, LOL, ruffle. And then Isidro, who's your loser?
Berman, of course. That incident really was very bad. Not as bad as it could be, but yeah, he's definitely had a terrible weekend, or a terrible Sunday in this case.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, look, I have to agree with you on that one. A little bit different to Damien though, but I'm agreeing with you, Isidro. My driver is definitely Antonelli. Again, as I said, putting in some incredible performance again this weekend. Definitely a future world champion. Maybe too early to say for this season, but he's definitely up there for a future world champion. My dick of the day, I don't even need to say it. I already said it earlier on. Damien, completely stole my thunder and my opportunity to make a big, massive song and dance about this. But I'm giving it to Colapinto. He is now my king dick of the season. So yes, Mr. Colapinto. Now the 2026 regs could come back as my dick of the day. So I'm just throwing that out there. Isidro already kind of threw that in there himself already. But then finally, my loser of the day, I'm giving it to Red Bull and Max Verstappen specifically. I mean, just that car is an absolute shitbox. It has a serious amount of problems. Throughout the race, he was complaining about it, qualifying, practice, all that kind of stuff. I know there's been a lot of talk over the last sort of 24 to 48 hours about Max coming out of Japan saying that, he's probably going to retire this season. If he does, he does. He's very, very happy doing other things, like the endurance racing, the Nordschleife races. Eventually he wants to get into the World Endurance Championship. He wants to do Le Mans. But it would be kind of sad to see him go because of the failure of F1 not, listening to the drivers. Even though, yes, Mercedes and Ferrari are doing really, really well. Ferrari are my favorite team. They're my number one team. It's great to see them performing well. But it's not just Max Verstappen who's complaining about these regulations. There are many other drivers on the grid and teams that are literally crying out to say, hey, we need something big done about this. We need to fix these problems. But again, look, we've already mentioned this. Hopefully over the next couple of weeks, they all can get together and talk about this. But yeah, that's my loser of the day, Red Bull and Max specifically. Moving on to our next segment, folks, our predictions game. Well, kind of our final segment, because unfortunately, and I'll bring it up on screen for those who are watching over on YouTube at the moment. Unfortunately, at the moment, the Fantasy League, or the fantasy section of the F1 website, is currently unavailable. It's actually down for maintenance. Just like the 2026 regulations, they're currently unavailable and down for maintenance. Can F1 get anything right this season? Come on. But look, what we'll make sure to do is we'll either post the results over on Twitter or Instagram and stuff like that, just as a follow-up to this. And of course, we'll talk about them as we go into Miami, because they'll all be updated by the time Miami's over. But yeah, look, moving on into our predictions game. Definitely some interesting predictions this weekend, folks. It was... I'm already looking here through the top three of most of us, and I'm kind of like, So close, but no cigar. But anyway, Dave, he had his predictions probably the most accurate here out of all of us. He had Antonelli in P1, which he got a point for. He had Russell in P2, which unfortunately was a 0 thing there. And then he had Hamilton in P3. Actually, no, I take that back. It wasn't, I think it was, who actually had I think it was you, Isidro, actually had this quite accurate, or was it Dave? I don't know, maybe it was. But yeah, sorry, he had Leclerc as his flop for a DNF, which was 0, but then he also had Lindblad inside the top 10, which I do believe he finished outside the top 10 in P14, so only 1 point for Dave. Isidro, what were your predictions again?
So I have Russell P1, Kimi P2, and Leclerc P3.
That was it. You had all 3 correct, but they were just in the wrong order.
I was expecting Russell. Yeah, Russell.
No, Russell. That was it. Piastri was in the top 3. What am I talking about? I seen Kimi and Leclerc, and I was like, oh my god, he had it so close. Sorry, go on.
And then I had the Colapinto outside the top 10 and Lindblad inside top 10.
That's right. So Colapinto outside the top 10, which is correct, and Lindblad inside the top 10, which is unfortunately a womp womp.
Yeah, the wrong racing ball.
The wrong racing ball. That's right. I wasn't too good either. Unfortunately, I think I probably only picked up 1 point this weekend myself. I had Russell in P1, Antonelli in P2, and Hamilton in P3, and then I had Colapinto outside the top 10, which, you know, as much as he is a dick, he did get me 1 point this weekend. And then Lindblad inside the top 10, which unfortunately was 0 points for me. Damien, what were your predictions?
I had Russell pegged for this win. I had Antonelli P2 and Hamilton P3. So 0 there for the 1 to 3. And I had Colapinto outside top 10 for my flop, which was a point. And then Lindblad inside the top 10, which was a 0 there as well. So yeah,
that's right.
That's 1 point overall there now.
Yeah, that's right. I think I remember saying last weekend or whenever we were talking about China that you were copying my predictions. So
except I had them first. So apart from
the, I don't think so. I think we need a timestamp machine for this Excel file. Isidro, I think you're going to have to sort that out for us here so we can clarify that.
Well, I think the way the results went, literally the only options were Colapinto and Lindblad, which everybody picked. So yeah.
I'm just kidding, but what it means is Isidro wins this week with his 2 points, so he was the most accurate out of all of us, which now means with the predictions table we still have Dave. Well, actually, no, there's a joint P1 at the moment with Dave and Isidro.
Oh, yeah. I'm back.
Dave and Isidro. There you go, baby. Isidro's back, baby. Coming in there with that joint P1. Unfortunately, I'm in P4 on 3 points, and Damien, who was last year, because it's totally last year, world champion, is currently sitting in 3rd at the moment. So yes, very, very, very interesting stuff altogether.
Technically, yeah, because they're joint top, right? So
yes,
yeah, thanks.
No. It says 3. You're the one who put this formula together, Damien. So you gotta, you gotta keep behind your workings here. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. But anyway, look, moving on into Miami. Isidro, what are your predictions for Miami?
So I stick with Russell for P1, Kimi for P2, and Leclerc P3. And then have Alonso DNF and Colapinto inside the top 10.
Do you know what? This is the only time of like the year or like this season that it's probably guaranteed that either Aston Martin are going to DNF. That is a really, really good call. So do you know what I'm actually going to do, right? I'm not going to copy you and say Alonso. I'm going to say Stroll to DNF.
And then
hold on a second here.
For the first time ever, Stroll gets the P1 and wins the Miami GP.
I would be absolutely in tears, Isidro, with like just a sheer amount of laughter and pain, because I'd be like, oh my god, this backfired so much.
If I'm not mistaken, Miami will be the first time that the new team principal will be leading the team, so we never know.
I think it's going to be like that team principal is going to have to do a lot of work to get that car up to P1, and especially with Stroll in the car. Who is this person? Jesus Christ. But yeah, those are some good predictions, Isidro, and I think I might go for that myself. But I have Kimi in P1, Russell in P2, and Charles in P3. I'm getting into the Kimi corner for Miami, and then, as I said, I'm going to have Stroll to DNF and Bortoletto inside the top 10. That's my predictions for Miami. And Damien, what are your predictions?
Well, I'm calling in the stewards here on this one.
Isidro, you're being called. There you go. FIA.
Flop DNF for Aston Martins is kind of obvious and has happened quite a lot. So, do we have to, put this to the council, or
You need to pick one. You cannot have both.
Exactly. And do you know what they say? Rubbing is racing, Damien. Rubbing is racing. It's not a penalty. Not breaking any laws.
You can
DNF
have both if you be specific about what caused the DNF.
Do you know, I could completely change this and say ask both Aston Martin cars to DNF for 2 points.
Well, that's more like it. That's more like it, yeah.
Okay, right. Do you know what? I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Aston Martin, both the DNF for 2 points. How about that?
That was way too easy.
You need to be specific. What will be the DNF?
Just them being Aston Martin. Actually, do you know what? No. I'm not going to.
If you get 2 points, need to be specific. Battery, crash, steering wheel popping out.
No, I'm not gonna be too big for my boots here. I'm gonna go back and say Stroll to DNF. But anyway, David, go.
I'm rescinding. What happens to Stroll?
He DNFs. His car just breaks down.
Yeah,
all right.
I'm not asking for 2 points. I'm only asking for 1 point.
Okay, maybe I'll put in Aston Martin to have green paint on their car. That could be. A good
No, he's not saying Aston Martin. He says just Stroll DNF, which is fine. I have Alonso DNF.
Stroll to still be Canadian.
I mean, if you want me to do that, I can do that. Stroll to be Canadian for 5 points.
All right.
Come on, Damien. What are your predictions?
I'm going to go for Kimi P1, Piastri P2, and Russell P3. I think George might get back on the podium for Miami. And then I'm going to do Ocon outside the top 10 for my flop, and my surprise is going to be Hadjar inside the top 10.
Grand. Well, look, it could backfire on all of us, Damien. Like both myself and Isidro, it could just completely backfire. Or who knows? We could come out with 5 points, or who knows? Maybe you could come out. We could all come out with 5 points. It could be a great weekend for all of us.
Yeah. I'm going to go for a 5-pointer Red Bull to have blue paint on their car.
5 points, Max Verstappen to show up and actually race.
Yeah. 5 points, George Russell to complain about something over the radio.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, look, folks, unfortunately, as I mentioned there a little bit earlier, the fantasy league thing is down at the moment. So unfortunately, we can't go through the results for the fantasy league, but I made sure to check them after the race or a little bit later after the race, and I'm ahead of Damien, and that's all that counts. So moving on to our final part of the episode. I know we normally don't do this. We normally just wrap things up and we head on out of here. But now that we do have this month's break between now and Miami, which is going to be the weekend of the 3rd of May, and that is also the weekend of my birthday, chaps, so definitely make sure to get me something nice. What he's got planned? Any birthday cake or presents planned for the weekend? No.
You'll get a call from Stroll wishing you a happy birthday.
You guys absolutely suck.
A Stroll stripogram, how about that?
A Stroll cameo video, like, oh my god, this is horrible. But anyway, look, now that we do have this month's break, there's one question I want to put to both of you. Now, it doesn't have to be super complicated or anything like that, just off of the top of your head. I want to know, now that we have this month's break, what do you both think needs to change before we get to Miami? So what I mean by that is what fundamentally needs to change with the cars for going into Miami, so we can see better racing and we can get to a stage where we can all be fairly comfortable with or fairly happy with how things are going. Even though I did say don't make this complicated. I know it's a very loaded question, but what do you think needs to change? Isidro, you first.
The battery does not go mad every time every time it want. The driver should have control over that, so they don't go rocket when they can't, and they don't go turtle mode when they shouldn't.
Turtle mode. Mario Kart turtle mode, or like the mushroom thing. Yeah. Oh God, Isidro, I love it. And Damien, what do you think needs to change?
It's quite obvious that there's an issue now. Now we've had 3 races and we've had that Bourbon crash. The situation that the drivers were, most fearful of has arisen. Thankfully, say not too bad on Ollie Berman. He just had a bit of a sprained ankle or whatever it was. But yeah, I think that what I think they might do is basically cut down the battery portion. So they may software limit it to about maybe a third of what it currently is. And then that would also reduce the super clipping time. So that's the amount of time that you're in turtle mode as such. So I think they might do something like that. So that would reduce super clipping. It might go back to a little bit more like it was last season. Maybe not to the same extent, but I think they might do something along those lines. But let's see. They might just do nothing. But I think there'll be a little bit more grumbling if that's the case and they decide not to do anything at all. But I think they have a few options, but they do need to do something in terms of the accident and the parameters around that accident and how it happened and why it happened, and it shouldn't happen again.
Yeah, no, definitely. Both very interesting points, and I think the fundamental issue is the whole battery thing. I mean, electric cars just absolutely ruining F1. I mean, Jesus.
The problem is not the battery; it's just how they manage it, right? So it's
because Formula E, they do just fine.
Yeah.
I don't care. As I said, get that Formula E shite out of here. This is Formula 1. Right? I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, if it was me and you were asking me that question, I would just say what needs to change is Aston Martin and their car. That's all I think. Aston Martin just need to change. That's it. But yeah, very interesting points. But hopefully, look, with this break now anyway, they can get their heads wrapped around all the issues and all that kind of stuff. And hopefully going into Miami, we have better racing. And again, the safety of the drivers is what's paramount, especially with these new set of regulations. So hopefully they can they can make it a little bit easier and a little bit more safer. But yeah, look, that was the Japanese Grand Prix. Definitely an interesting weekend. It's going to be a bit of a pity now that yes, we do have a month's break, but obviously, look, as we mentioned in the last episode, again, everything that's currently happening in the world, it's obvious why we have the next 2 races cancelled. But yeah, look, we will be back again for the weekend of the 3rd of May, the first weekend of May. But folks, let us know below in the comments, what did you think of this weekend? What did you think of the Japanese Grand Prix? What did you think of our takes on some of the teams and this whole regulations issue? Tell us below what you're currently thinking. But most importantly, chaps, thank you so much for taking time out of both of your afternoons to talk about Japanese Grand Prix.
Thank you. It was good to be here.
Awesome. Well, look, chaps, it's going to be a little bit of a long one. I'm going to miss you over the next couple of weeks, but we'll definitely make sure to stay in touch. But for everyone listening over on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts and stuff like that, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. We hope you did enjoy it. As I said again, let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. But if you did enjoy today's episode, definitely make sure to smash that like button. Definitely make sure to subscribe to the channel over on Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you are listening to this at the moment. It would greatly help us out, and have that bell notification enabled for whenever we do post a new episode. But until next time, folks, everyone enjoy your break over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see you all on the weekend of the 1st of May, 3rd of May, whatever it is, for the Miami GP. Adios.